Okay, so you guys seem to like the last format with me reacting to someone's content, so we're going to try that again. Today we're going to be going over a video by a very well-known propagandist on the Russian side known as Real Truth. So we're going to be playing the video. You guys won't be able to see it. I can, but I'll be playing it on the side of the screen so you guys can follow along with me.
You really couldn't make it up. So let's start by going into Wonder Weapon.
So, little background, by the way. Real Truth is someone who lives in England, claims to be a veteran of the Falklands War from the 80s. And that's pretty much all the background he has. His TikTok basically didn't post anything until the invasion started. He's on, I think, his second account. Basically, everything he posts is propaganda. To give you another little bit of insight, a lot of sources that he uses are literally himself. He'll reference sources and citations that are literally just his own videos, and that's the source he uses as justification for what he says being fact, which would be like me saying the sky is purple in one video, and then 5 videos later I go, see, the sky is purple, and here's this citation to prove that it's purple, and that citation is my previous video. That's not how stuff works in the real world. but let's get into this. So we're talking about Western wonder weapons.
Weapon, the very first thing that we were told is a Wonder Weapon was a Bradley.
Actually, no. Nobody on the West said that the Bradley was a wonder weapon or that any weapon from the West was a wonder weapon. In fact, if you go back and look through all the propaganda of the wonder weapon term, the only places you see the term wonder weapon being used are from Russian sources. In fact, one of the very first instances I can find of wonder weapons is from RT News, which goes to show you that no, the West didn't call anything the wonder weapon, and especially no one in the West called the Bradley a wonder weapon.
Those Bradleys now are so badly destroyed and ruined on the steppes of Russia, or the steppes of Ukraine, that you can actually go and see them in their own parked-up area called Bradley Square.
And this is another talking point that people like to use, Bradley Square, because there's so many destroyed Bradleys. Well, we can actually look up and see how many U.S. Bradleys have been destroyed. And if you guys want to see, by the way, the same sources that I'm using, you can go to Oryx, where they document every instance of a vehicle destroyed, captured, or abandoned. They use photographic evidence, they use geolocation, they use time and date, and they verify everything to make sure they don't have any double postings and make sure everything is accurate. So right here we can see of the approximately 550 vehicles for infantry fighting vehicles that have been delivered so far to Ukraine, 30 Bradleys have been destroyed or damaged. 30. I don't know where you get the hundreds, but I know that a lot of people in Russia like to use this graphic right here, the same battle that they photographed from 50 different angles, and then for 3 weeks they parroted it as different fights and tried to trick people on the internet. They call that Bradley Square. But in fact, if you look at all the photos, it's the same fight from 50 different angles, and it's not like all of those Bradleys were destroyed. They had their tracks blown off, which is, you tow it, you put a new track on it. It's not like it was destroyed. And on top of that, they're not impervious vehicles. They're not immune. They're infantry fighting vehicles. They don't have the thickest armor. They're not the fastest. They're not the best. But what they were specifically designed to do is counter Russian equipment. That's kind of what they were made for, and they do a damn good job at it. In fact, we've seen plenty of footage like this instance right here of Bradleys fighting at night at extreme distances because the Russian vehicles don't have that capability. They should, but they don't. But again, Bradleys aren't impervious. They're just infantry fighting vehicles. And to think that a vehicle is not going to get blown up just because it's in a war zone is insane. It's a war zone. Stuff's going to get blown up. But these aren't wonder weapons, and no one in the West has ever called it a wonder weapon. But if you're going to say stuff and say, oh, there's Bradley Square, at least get the numbers right. Like if you had said that 25 Bradleys have been destroyed and 5 have been captured or abandoned, then yes, you would have been accurate. And I would have said, yes, good job. You know your numbers.
While you're there, you could possibly take a stroll down Leopard Lane.
So take a stroll down Leopard Lane. Let's see how many leopards have been destroyed. So out of all the leopards that have been delivered, which there's a couple hundred from multiple different countries, we have 2 Leopard 2A4s destroyed. Those 2 were both destroyed by artillery. We have videos of those being destroyed. And then there is 6 Leopard 2A6s that have been either damaged or destroyed. We have 3 destroyed and 2 damaged, and no, 2 damaged and abandoned, and then the third one was also damaged and abandoned. So again, I don't know where you're getting Leopard Lane. I mean, we can cite these sources, we can look at all the video and photographic evidence, because you could look at the Russian photos as well, and you could see that when they post, oh, look at this leopard we destroyed, oh, look at this leopard we destroyed, they're the same vehicles from a different angle. That doesn't, that you can post the same photo from a different angle multiple times. It doesn't mean somehow the number goes up.
The leopards performing so badly that the Germans said that once they'd left the factory, they were no longer German tanks, they were Ukrainian tanks.
I don't know what you're citing here. I don't know when Germany said, well, these aren't German tanks anymore. These are Ukrainian tanks. What does that have to do with anything? Well, I mean, yeah, they're Ukrainian tanks. They're in the hands of Ukraine. It'd be like saying an Iraqi Abrams is now a U.S. tank because it came out of a U.S. factory. It still belongs to Iraq, so it's an Iraqi Abrams.
Performed so badly they got blown up before they got anywhere near the front.
I would like to see the source of leopards being blown up far away from the front. The only leopards that we've seen damaged or destroyed are directly on the front line in the Zaporizhia region, and primarily due to minefields, not even enemy fire.
And of course Russia had that infamous Flying Turret of the Month award for the competition between Russian soldiers to hit them so hard in the turret area that they could make the turret fly as high as possible.
I would like to see the leopard turret pop that you're referring to, because there's only been one recorded instance of a leopard's turret being popped off, and that's in Turkey. And that's about it. There's been no other recorded instance in the existence of the leopard of a turret flying off, especially not in Ukraine, because that would be all over the news. That would be everywhere. So I have no idea what you're talking about.
And then we had, didn't we, the wonderful Abrams and the Challengers. For all the action they've seen, they might as well be the ghost of Kiev.
Yeah, no, the Abrams hasn't seen the front lines yet. They're still getting training on that in Poland. The Challenger has seen service on the front line. We've got some footage of the Challenger actually firing while on the move, and then we've seen the photos of the Challenger with the classic cope cage on top. I don't know what your point is here, though.
Not that he actually saw any action. Anyway, and then of course, didn't we? We had the wonderful Patriot system, which got absolutely ruinated by one of the rather good Kinzhal missiles that the Russians had.
I don't know what Patriot system you're referring to that got ruinated by the Kinzhal missile. In fact, there's multiple recorded instances of the Kinzhal missile being shot down by the Patriot missile system, to the point where Russia has stopped their claim of, oh, the indestructible Kinzhal missile. They've stopped saying that. The Kinzhal missile was shot down I think it was the first week that the Patriot missile system was in operation. They specifically tried to target the Patriot missile system, and they didn't. A missile was shot out of the sky, it hit the ground, and then it blew up and fragmented near the Patriot missile system, and a single part of it was damaged. Nothing was even destroyed. It was still fully operational. And if you guys don't know anything about the Patriot missile system, I would encourage you to go here to this channel, Habitual Line Crosser. He's actually a Patriot missile system operator, and he does a great in-depth video debunking one of the fellow propagandists of Real Truth here, named Johnny Cage, where he goes in depth on how the Patriot missile system works, its capabilities, and its performance in Ukraine, and how it definitely, totally doesn't destroy the Kinzhal missile. But again, you're using points as facts that aren't facts. The things you're saying aren't true, and you can't cite them because there's no verifiable source that they're even real.
And then, of course, on top of that, we had the HIMARS and the Storm Shadows, which were going to be game changers of wonder weapons.
Yeah, they were game changers. The HIMARS is such a game changer that the Russians finally figured out how to change their logistical supply chains and figured out that, man, we probably shouldn't put ammunition depots near the front lines. And the fact that the HIMARS weapon system still destroys Russian ammo depots and troop locations on a very regular basis. Are you seriously going to sit here and try to pretend to me like the Russians themselves don't fear the HIMARS? They don't fear it so much that they've actively gone out of their way to try and target and find HIMARS systems. Like the HIMARS system is extremely effective, and especially the Storm Shadow missile, to the point where Russia was so upset that the Storm Shadow missile was sent to Ukraine that they said they threatened to nukes again. The Storm Shadow missile has proven very effective, and they're using old technology for the Storm Shadow. Like, this is first generation Storm Shadow. This isn't like brand new Storm Shadow missiles. Just like with the Mauled missile that the U.S. gave, they're not using brand new ones. They're using the very first generation older technology of these missiles, and they're still proving extremely effective to the point where if one lands or there's even fragments of it, the Russians are scrambling to get pieces of it to try and reverse engineer it. If it was so bad, the Russians wouldn't have a need to do all that and try and reverse engineer it. They wouldn't be upset that it's even there in the country in the first place.
It turned out to be absolute nonsense, and it's done.
I mean, they didn't, but you can keep saying that and just hoping it's true.
Very little to change the course of the war. But now we come on to the latest, the F-16s. These wonderfully regurgitated and reconstituted planes.
Are you seriously going to try and sit here and tell me the F-16 isn't a phenomenal flying platform? I would love to know your background on what you have to say about the F-16 and how you're such an expert in it that you can say that it's a regurgitated platform and that it sucks.
Are going to be the absolute savior of Ukraine in this war. And they have a program all mapped out where Ukrainian pilots will step out of MiG-29s, forget all their muscle memory, climb into an F-16, and they will jolly well go. They're not allowed to fly into Russia, by the way, but then again, when's that ever stopped Ukrainians if they're going to listen? I mean, they drop cluster.
So this isn't pilots that are being taken from the MiG-29. Again, I don't know where you're getting this information, but if you look up the pilots being trained, you can actually Google this stuff. Or hell, if you think Google's biased, you can go on DuckDuckGo and get some unbiased searches. These are brand new pilots. These are people that don't have the familiarity with the MiG-29, which going from a MiG-29 to an F-16, yeah, it's going to be difficult, but it's not impossible. It's not like somehow they're incapable of doing it. Like, these people were capable of learning how to be a combat effective pilot in a MiG-29. I don't think they're so stupid that they now somehow can't switch to a different platform and also learn how to fly it. That's asinine to insinuate that this pilot is now stupid because he only knows how to fly one platform. That's insane. And as to the training, yeah, it's going to take a while. I think the rating that I previously looked up and showed was it takes 9 months to be to be qualified in an F-16, and that's just qualified. That's not combat effective. So it's going to take a while. It's probably going to take about a year to train these pilots to be combat effective.
If they're going to listen, I mean, they drop cluster bombs on cities that are filled with civilians and no military installation.
Show me the source. Because I can show you at least 25 different sources and videos of Russians dropping cluster munitions on civilians and civilian infrastructure with no military installations or anything nearby them. Hell, the city that I was in was regularly hit by cluster munitions. We found cluster munitions on the outskirts of the city that were completely unexploded. There's a cluster munition on display in the center of the city I was in because it was dropped right in the middle of one of the busiest civilian populated areas in a shopping area. But go on, yeah. Talk about how Ukraine has done that. I would love to see your source or your citation on that. But I'm sure you don't have one.
So it's one of those where you go, they're not really going to listen. However,
and they don't have to listen to us. They can do with the equipment as they please. We give them intel. We give them suggestions. They can do what they want. They're their own country. This isn't a Russian satellite state where if they don't do what we want and they don't take our suggestions, we're just going to invade them. That's some pretty Russian Soviet style thinking there.
there is a silver lining in that the F-16s, the way the Ukrainian pilots are going, they might not even get in them. First of all, they've got to learn English, as I say, and then secondly, they've got to learn to fly them competently without panicking during an airstrike.
Okay. Your point? They're learning English to deal with their instructors. Yes, that's a thing. Yes, they need to fly them competently. I don't get your point here.
Well, what happened is the pilots have been selected to go and fly these F-16s in a place called Thornton. They were training in two MiG-29s when they managed, not under any fire whatsoever, to smash into each other, and one of the pilots who is selected for the USA F-16 fighter program has died.
I've looked into the incident you're referring to, and I actually can't find a single credible source for this. All I found was a single Russian source, which even Russia isn't parroting. And like normally, if there's even a Russian source that's somewhat decent, the Ministry of Defense or the Kremlin or RT will try and go off of that and use that. But I'm not finding anything. So again, we're finding another example of this person using a story or event that happened that has zero credible citation. But let's say hypothetically it was true. Let's say it was true that two MiG-29s collided. Training accidents happen. Would you like me to cite all the Russian instances of planes crashing, planes dropping munitions on civilian cities in Russia, pilots bailing, pilots crashing into civilian buildings? I mean, we can go down that road. Training incidents happen in every military. So this fictional event that you're citing wouldn't really be that big of a deal. Yeah, it kind of sucks, or it would suck if it had happened, but it didn't.
That's correct. They couldn't even avoid each other in midair. God only knows what's going to happen when they get into a war situation. Sad as it is, it just goes to show the incompetency of what the West is trying to force Ukraine to do.
I don't see how you can even say as sad as it is, because it literally did not happen. I remember, for everyone that doesn't know, this is the same man that still touts that a NATO bunker was blown up 2 miles under the ground in the middle of Ukraine, and 200 NATO officers were killed, or that a train was blown up going through a non-existent tunnel in Lviv and 200 NATO officers were killed. This is the same person again that a lot of the sources that did stories on those NATO bunkers and trains that was blown up, they use him as the original source. And he has no original source. So for those of you watching this, I want you to take someone like this with a grain of salt and look at the differences you see with someone like him and someone like me. I will give you sources or citations, or I will tell you, if you don't believe what I say, please go do the research and please fact check what I'm saying. If I am wrong, then I will admit that I am wrong. But what I am doing is using factual citations and sources. This person is making up bullshit and spreading propaganda on a daily basis. And if you look at their comment section, it's full of bot accounts on a mass scale, and then people that come across the content and see all the comments and they don't verify the sources, and they go, well, if this many people are believing it, it must be true. And then you've got just your classic Russian dick riders. If you guys want me to do more reaction videos like this, I will. I've got another person that's on my list of videos that I got to react to like this. But again, this is a non-credible source, someone who spews propaganda on a daily basis with no citations. Nothing they say is, or almost nothing they say is factual. And anytime anything good happens on one side, they try and say it wasn't real, or that it doesn't mean much. But anytime anything bad happens on their side, they either don't talk about it or they say, oh, well, it's not a big deal. Please stay smart, stay educated, don't believe everything you see on the internet. Fact check everything, even sources like myself. Have a good day.